This time I got another Sony DCRTRV110. This one here, they said it's eating tapes, but it didn't eat a tape for me, but it does not play back. So there's some problems with this one. This is the third that came in at the same time, so we're going to take a look and see if we can get this one to go. I imagine it's probably not all that serious, but we're going to have to disassemble it and do some investigating. Let's check it out. I have another camera. This one says the tape binds on play. So before I even power this one up, I want to take a look at the mechanism and see what it's doing. So to do that, we'll pop off the cassette door. Now, I'm going to mention something here. I don't know, I haven't checked into if this is valid or not, but I just had a comment from a viewer that informed me that Dr. Sony apparently has disappeared. If we remember that organization, I had a SLV-R1000 that was purchased from them earlier this year, I guess it was, that had arrived with a broken board, and they had attempted to repair, but they hadn't attempted. They'd done a really piss poor job of trying to fix it. Well, it appears that maybe they might be out of business now. But again, I haven't confirmed anything. I just can go by what somebody else told me. So I don't know whether they are or not. But that's just what someone posted in the comments, that their website or something was down and they were out of business and people weren't getting their stuff back that sent them stuff to be repaired. Which generally happens a lot, actually. I know of a couple shops that exactly that happened. Their doors were open one day and they were accepting products in for repair, and the next day when the workers showed up for work, well, the locks had been changed and they couldn't get into work, and everything that was in the business was seized. Whether people got their products back, I'm sure they did, but they had to go through the whole legal process of dealing with the creditors, because the creditors went in and took anything of value to try and get money back that was owed by the business that went under. So that type of crap happens. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. If a business goes bankrupt, if your device is in there when it happens, you'll be waiting a while to get it back. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load a tape that I don't care about. I just want to see what it does. So the tape does appear to move, which is good. So the tape's not jamming up at that point. And it ejects. So far so good. That part works. Check to see if this little clip has come off on the pinch roller. It hasn't, it's not loose. Drum is spinning. Hook up a monitor and see if I get a picture. Okay, I do not have a picture, I have a blue screen. You can see the tapes moving. I just have a blue screen. So I've got no video on this unit, no video coming out. It could be, it could be contaminated heads. Try fast forward, nothing happens. This tape is a digital 8 tape. We'll try a analog tape and just see whether I get anything on that. Well, I'm kind of wanting to look and see what I see off the screen, or whether it'll even detect that this is an analog tape. So if we look on the little viewfinder here, even though I've got my big TV plugged in as well, I just want to be able to see whether I've got any signal on the little monitor, which I don't. What about if I put it in pause? Nothing. No signal whatsoever. And no attempt of a signal, like no snow or anything coming off of here. So it's going to be a little more serious, I think, than clogged heads, because if the heads were clogged, we would expect to see snow, and we're seeing nothing. We'll check the other modes. Rewind, for example. That appears to work. I don't know. Looking at the way that the tape is reeling here doesn't look very good. Take a look at the way the tape is winding. See the tape here? The way it's unspooling. It's like it's twisting. See that? And it did say tape binds on play, so maybe it's damaging the tape. Let's just remove the tape and take a look at the tape itself and see whether I just put some new creases in my tape. Well, here's the tape. We'll just roll the tape forward or backwards a bit and see whether I put any new creases in it that weren't there before. Release the lock and kind of move the tape back a bit. I don't see any. And if I go, whoop, what's that? Is that a crease? Oh, there's a scratch there. But I don't see any deep creases on the tape, so perhaps it's not chewing up the tape. Let's hope not. Oh, and I'm just using to roll tapes. I'm just using a standard, I guess this is a quarter inch bit. This is quarter inch here, right? So quarter inch bit, like for a quarter inch driver or a screwdriver, that fits the hubs perfectly for 8mm. And for the smaller mini DV, well, my other smaller screwdriver here, this one here, that one fits the hub for mini DV and DAT, for example. All right, so our work's cut out for us. We have to remove the case from the camera and dig into this thing and see why it's not working. It could be our classic that affects all Sonys, and that's the connectors. It could be the edge connectors that are failing on this one, and that could also affect it, make it eat a tape, because if you lost some of the signals, the machine could shut down and come up with error codes that resembled tape hubs not turning. So I'm just going to remove these screws. I don't need to run the camera on this, I don't think. I think you guys have seen me take apart a camera before, so I'm basically going to remove all the arrow mark screws and pop the camera apart, and we'll pick this up once I get it apart. Alright, all the screws are out at this point, so we're just going to pop off the front cover. And unplug the microphone. Remove the sound deadening material. What this is for is to try to deaden the noise from the transport being picked up by the microphone. That's all that's there for. Now I can remove the side cover, undo the two connectors, one for the viewfinder and the other one is the cable going over to this other control board. This is the viewfinder. Put that out of the way for now, and we'll remove the battery, unplug that cable, which is for the photo snapshot button for people that want to take still photos with their video camera. Totally useless feature. I'm sure that Sony only added it because somebody else did, like JVC, a junk video company. And we'll undo this connector over here. And now I can remove the base plate. And we will proceed to do the number one fault that these cameras all have, and that's these edge connectors that go bad. It is such a common problem. It's worth repeating that this is the number one fault on all of these cameras. Now, these connectors, of course, are very, very fragile. You have to be very careful when you undo them. Just very, very carefully unseat them. And if it's one like that you can't get a good grip on, the easiest way to do it is to insert a screwdriver or something under it so that you can pinch between your finger and the screwdriver and then just give it an even pull. That way it will separate. There's no need to put contact cleaner on here. I used to at one point, but I stopped because it doesn't really improve anything as far as the reliability goes. It's one more thing to cause problems. What goes wrong on here is the connection fails just due to oxygen getting on the end of the contact and causing a slight degradation of the signals, which can completely impair them. So these are the contacts I'm talking about on the back side of here, right? These contacts here. And just the process of removing them, you can see the tension that's been on them. It's putting a little dent in that. It's basically, this is just a piece of circuit board material that they've tinned the end with a very, very thin layer of solder on here. And the whole point is, what happens is after a number of years just sitting there, they can deteriorate and you lose a contact. So by just removing them, let's just say we used to wipe them with contact cleaner. And if you feel the need to wipe them with deoxit or something, you can. It's really unnecessary because just the mechanical action of separating them and putting them back together is going to fix it, and they're going to be good for years. So that is typically what I do. And the reason I do this now as opposed to putting any cleaners on it is because I used to put cleaners on them in the past, and I found, this is when I worked in the shop and we did hundreds of these things. Like I would do, in a week when these were all starting to fail, I'd do 3 or 4 of them a week. All had the same problem, connectors failing. And we found that the ones that I put the contact cleaner on didn't necessarily last any longer than the ones that I didn't. In fact, they were probably more prone to fail because you've put something on there, and now if you got chemicals on there that are likely going to attack the surface. So I just found that from practical experience, your mileage may vary, but from my own experience in the field of doing this for all the years that I did this, that there was no need to put contact cleaner on it. So we'll just pop this one back in. I'm just going to make sure that none of these are dirty too. Sometimes people get stuff spilt on their cameras, and this is one I'm going to inspect because I thought I felt something sticky there, but maybe not. I guess it's just me thinking. I thought I felt something sticky on this connector. Is there any evidence that there was any moisture in here? I'm just going to take a look at the cabinet. Because this one here just feels like something sticky on top of it. I don't see any evidence that anybody sprayed anything into this one, like the last one that was full of oil. But that one connector here just felt like a little bit. And what connector is that one for? This one is for the loading motor, for one. What else does it go to? The loading motor's on there. What else? Oh, you know what? It's the dew sensor. Okay. The dew sensor's under here somewhere. That's right down in, if I'm not mistaken, it's right down under here. There's it looks like a little resistor. Well, that's what it is. It's just a little resistor that is exposed, and it changes its resistance if there's dampness in it. But it's right underneath this guide. So this is dew sensor and loading motor. This one here is the drum. This one having the shielding on it. This is the video. This one's going to be the drum motor. And over here we've got, this is the capstan motor over here, and this one here is the function, the chassis. And on the chassis you've got your tape end sensors. You got power for the LED, and you got power for both the rotation sensors and the signal coming back from them. And that's the one that gets damaged over here when the chassis cut it, this is one of the models that did get affected by that. That causes the tape to, give you the error code that the rotation sensor is not turning. There's a screw missing on this. Does this one need to have the screws done? I think no, maybe not. This one feels tight. Like the other two, the chassis was loose, but this one here, the screws have not worked their way out, so we're probably okay on this one at this point. Check the screw down here and see if this one's tight. Yeah, that was tight, so the others probably are also okay. The one up here and the one over here. I don't see any slack in the chassis. You see, there's no play there, so I think we're okay. So we'll just reseat these connectors. Now, today's Boxing Day, and I went to deliver that beta machine I fixed last week. I had to go into the fish store and get some fish food for my 1 or 2 fish that are left in my tank. I have to make a trip to a fish store in Burnaby to get the fish food because they're the only ones that carry marine fish food. Because the tree huggers and animal rights activists, idiots, somehow convinced the cities through lobbying the local governments that we shouldn't be allowed to buy marine fish in the pet stores. You know, you can go and buy goldfish and guppies and all you want, but we shouldn't be allowed to buy marine fish. And well, they've successfully lobbied most of the cities, the local cities, like the city of Vancouver, Surrey, Delta, I think Richmond. They've passed laws that say that if you're running a pet store, you cannot sell marine fish. You can only sell freshwater fish. So the stores that all used to carry our supplies, our salt and our fish food and stuff, well, the store owners have decided that, well, if we can't sell fish food, like PetSmart was one, if we can't sell the fish and we can't sell the aquarium supplies, I guess there's nothing stopping them from selling salt or food, but they can't sell the fish because it's illegal in that local area to sell marine fish. So they've just all decided that they're not going to carry fish food anymore, which means that I have to make an 80-kilometer round trip every time I want to get a jar of fish food every 6 months or so. I got to make a long drive out of my way to get fish food because nobody local carries it anymore, which kind of ticks me off, but that's the way it is. I'm waiting for the last couple fish to expire. They're old. I've had them 20 years. If anyone told me that marine fish could live 20 plus years in an aquarium, I probably wouldn't have set it up. I did it when my kids were little. They're all grown up now. They don't care about it. And here I am maintaining this great big 90-gallon tank for a couple fish that refuse to die. Yeah, I know I could just flush them, but I don't want to be mean, right? But anyway, it's kind of a pain. So anyway, I had to go there anyway, so I took this machine back. Where was I going with this story? Oh yes, it's Boxing Day. So we got a big mall, a big outlet mall out here, huge. And every year on Boxing Day, well, people come from far to go to look for some deals. And I'm driving out of town. I should show you the dash cam footage maybe I will. Maybe I'll go get it and we'll insert it in here. But the lineup to get to the mall, going the opposite way into town, it was lined up for miles, like 10 miles it was lined up. And I'm looking at this and I'm leaving and thinking, oh crap, I got to go back that way. Needless to say, what should have taken me 2 hours to drop off a VCR and pick up some fish food and come back took me 3.5 hours because I got stuck in a traffic jam for everybody heading down to the mall. And even though there's signs everywhere that says mall traffic, use the Deltaport exit, because they had set up a back road in to avoid the main traffic light into my town. So they could just go the back way and get into the mall that way. But it appears that everybody on Boxing Day has all of a sudden lost their ability to read signs because nobody was taking the back road. When I came home, I took the exit through the back road to get to the mall to get home, and it was faster than sitting in traffic. Maybe it was all that turkey people were eating yesterday. It left them temporarily brain dead. But it happens every year. Same with people trying to get to the airport because there's an outlet mall by the Vancouver airport. And the same thing, you know, everyone going to go to the outlet mall to try to save themselves $5 just jammed it up for everybody else. And of course I'm being sarcastic when I say save $5. I don't know how much they're saving on Boxing Day because I don't go near the stores on Boxing Day. I haven't been to a Boxing Day sale probably 30 years, at least 20 years. Well, I guess I gotta hook up the front panel for this so I can eject this. I want to see whether I get a picture before putting this all back together. But anyway, that's just my 2 bits on the traffic today. All those silly people lining up to go to the mall. All right, put this tape in. Now, will I see a picture on this? I think that other cable is just for the little, oh, it might be for this one. It might be for this viewfinder. So, if I close that, do I have a picture on this one? I do have a picture on that, but not this screen, but I'm going to plug the monitor in anyway. See if it'll detect that it's an 8mm tape. It still thinks it's a digital 8 tape. So it's not reading the tape. Could be clogged heads. We'll just try the fingernail trick while I've got it apart and see whether I get a picture. So I'm just going to undo this so that it doesn't get damaged, because I don't need to eject the tape right now. And we'll just pull this up here and take a look at the tape transport. Tape transport looks fine. I don't see anything wrong here. Let's give the heads a fingernail assault. In other words, a cleaning. Back side of the fingernail. Just the right hardness. It won't damage the heads. And of course I slowed it too much, so it shut down. So we'll start it up again. Oh, I hear something. I hear something. I hear music. I see a picture. So, the heads were clogged. Completely clogged. The little head cleaning foamy wheel is not going to do anything on that. A cleaning tape may have cleared those off, like a dry cleaning tape. And you never want to ever in a million years use an Allsop wet cleaner on an 8mm camera. That was a surefire way to destroy your camera, and believe me, when Allsop were marketing those tape cleaners, well, I think Allsop probably broke more VCRs than they actually cleaned. Right? I mean, it was an absolute disaster. Those wet cleaning tapes that were flogged back in the 80s as being, oh, this is how you clean your VCR. No, that was how you broke your VCR. We loved it though, because we didn't sell them where I worked. We sold the dry cleaning tapes, but we loved them because that meant a big bill, especially if someone had a relatively new VCR and it was effed by one of those cleaning tapes, and then you had to tell them, oh, sorry, your $500 hi-fi VCR is broken because you put a cleaning tape in it, and no, it's not covered by warranty, so it's going to be like $80 to fix it. That really pissed people off, and they'd be yelling at us. They'd be yelling at the service writers about how we're charging them for it, and it should be warranty. It's like, no, you broke it. You bought one of those aftermarket cleaning tapes that they advertised all the time in like Video Maker and Video Magazine. Remember those magazines? Anyway, yeah, they used to advertise those things, and people would break their machines. They wouldn't break every machine. Some machines, some of the old machines from like 1981 or 1982 were built like a battleship, and it didn't break them because everything was metal, but it broke a lot of machines, especially when they started to go to plastic parts and guideposts and stuff. You know, pull the guides right out or break gears, and you know, it's I mean, the first time I saw the Sony broken gears on the SLV 555, 757, R5, all of the Sonys that had the blue gear that broke, the first ones we saw break were broken by wet cleaners. they started breaking on their own anyway, but the first ones broke when the wet cleaners jammed. So this one is working. Nice little transport on this unit. This is one of my favorite transports, actually. This one. I'm going to unplug those just so they're out of the way. Stop that from turning. Just press the stop button on here, wherever it is. There we go. I can remove the power for now, just so that nothing shorts out. This is one of my favorite transports that Sony had. The B chassis. I think the only one that I like better than the B mechanism was the A mechanism, which is the one that was the predecessor to this one. That was used on cameras like the VX3 and some of those. I like the A mechanism. The B mechanism was a good chassis. The only drawback to this one is if you want to clean the heads, you got to tear the whole camera apart, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So for that respect, the chassis that replaced this one, and I don't know the chassis number, someone's going to correct me, but sorry, I don't know the model number of the chassis, but it's the one that the tape goes in the bottom. And I always consider that to be the worst chassis that they made. Not because it's hard to work on. It's actually very good in that respect, because you can just pop a cover off the top and modify it like I showed in a video. I've got one where I can remove the top cover without having to take the camera apart and then access the top of the drum to clean the heads. And that's one of the machines I use for my tape conversion business, because I'm always getting tapes that clog the heads, and I can just go in there while it's playing and clean it, done, right? Back on the road. But the problem with those machines, well, they had a few, but the biggest problem with those machines was if you've got your camera mounted on a tripod and you need to change the tape. Well, you got to take your camera off the tripod. You got to remove the mounting shoe for your tripod from the bottom of the camera so that you can open the camera up and change the tape, and then put your mounting shoe back on and attach the camera to the tripod. And that takes time. Whereas this one here, you just hit the eject button, the tape pops out, you drop a new tape in. Done. So, far superior design, this one, to the models that replaced this. But from a tape archiving perspective, I'll use the other one before I'll use one of these. And I've got a V110, and I've got two, what are they, 730s? DCRTRV110s with the big 4-inch screen. I got two of those. I got a 110. I've got a GVD 800. I don't use it because, again, it's even more work than this if you have to clean it manually. You got to tear the whole thing apart. It's just a joke. Or use a cleaning tape, which, of course, cleaning tapes wear your heads down a little bit every time you use it. So I don't like using cleaning tapes if I don't have to. I'd much rather use a good old fingernail to clear the heads off. And that was a trick I learned from an engineer when I worked in broadcast. That's what the engineer used to do. He used to do it on the 1-inch helical type A machines that we had. He used to do it on the 2-inch quad machine that was in the commercial production truck for the commercial company that was also part of the operation that I worked on, commercial production company. And they had an Ampex quad machine, but he used to do it on that. He would take his fingernail to a quad machine while it was playing to clear the heads. Anyway, as he put it, he said he would always do it through the tape as well. Like, you'd chew the tape up, but they didn't care, because these were tape clips that were coming in that were being assembled into other productions. They usually do it in the color bar section, not on the program area, right? But it just saved removing the tape and cleaning it and putting it back together and rethreading the tape up. So if the head was clogged up in the color bar or some non-critical area, he would just open up the cover that went around the head, and he could get in there with his fingernail. And the way he explained it to me was that your fingernail is just the right hardness to clear the clog, but it's not too hard to the point where it's going to damage anything. So it was hard enough to clear the clog, and he always did it through the tape so that there was a layer of tape between his fingernail and his finger. But that's probably because on a quad machine, well, you can't get at the heads on the back side. You can only get at it where the tape is when you flip down the door, right? That's running, and the tape is being held up against the head drum by vacuum. But anyway, that's what he used to do, and on the 1-inch machine as well. And we learned that trick. I've used it ever since, and that was like 19. What years I worked in the broadcast? I did it. 1980. Well, I worked in there. I volunteered for the first year or so, and then I interned when I was going to BCIT. But it was 79 to 82, and it was probably 81 or 82 when he showed me that, before I left and then went into the service business, because there was no place for me in broadcast, apparently. So they tell me. There was no jobs. There was no local jobs available in my chosen field in broadcast. And if I wanted to go into broadcast, I would have had to do what everybody else does, and that's relocate to some small town somewhere and work there for a couple of years. And I didn't want to relocate, so I just decided, you know what? I'll do something else. And that landed me back into repair work, because I had done that before. I had worked in a shop when I was in high school, and so I already had my feet wet a bit. So I went and got a job at Sony, and Sony taught me a whole bunch of stuff about VCRs. And then Sony wanted me to go back east. They wanted me to go to Winnipeg. They offered me a full-time job in Winnipeg, and I said, thanks, but no thanks, and I left there and ended up at the shop that I stayed at for, almost 20 years. Just a few months shy of 20 years. And then I got out of that hellhole because I could see the future of repairs, and let's put it this way. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I did not like what I saw. It was blatantly obvious by 2001, I guess, that we were going to all become redundant. But I didn't leave that year. I left in 2003. Because by 2001, we could certainly see the direction that the repair industry was heading. It was going down, right? The work was going down. More and more high-tech products were coming out that were not easily serviced. The companies were getting to that point, even back then, where they did not want to supply you with individual parts. You had to replace an entire circuit board, and a circuit board like this on a camera that was $1,000 at the time, the circuit board was like $650. I took the plasma training course from Sony. That was one of the last courses I took, actually. Actually, I think PTV was HD, the LCD HD set was probably the last course I took. That was an online course that we did at home on the computer. But I took the plasma training course, and how does this go in? It goes in like that. There we go. And they had a bunch of us in the classroom. That was the last classroom course I think I took, was plasma TV. And Sony did have a plasma set for a while, for 1 year, and then they went to LCD. And they didn't even make it. I think it was made by NEC for Sony. But anyway, that's beside the point. We took this plasma training course, and we all came out of there looking at each other. There was like 40 of us that took the course at Sony in Richmond, their headquarters in Richmond. And we all kind of looked at each other when we were done. And it's like, well, what do we do? Like, literally, it was so ridiculous. So now you've seen me fix plasma TVs. Sure, they can be fixed. You can change boards out on them, no problem. Right? No problem changing out boards. You can fix them down to the component level. I've done that too. Did a couple Panasonics like that. What Sony told us was, well, here's what you can do on your plasma TVs if they break. You can check your fuses, and if any of your fuses are blown, check your power supply fuses, your AC fuses, check the DC fuses on the sustain board, on the X sustain and the Y sustain board. And if any of these fuses are popped, you got to change the board. But not only do you have to change that board, so we're talking the Y sustain board, for example, but you've also got to change your upper and lower buffer boards. You got to change your X sustain board. You got to change your A communication board, and you have to change the panel. Any fuses, any failure for any reason, the panel has to be changed. And then all the boards, and there was more than just the X main and the Y main as they later became called by Samsung. Some of these old sets, like this Panasonic that's sitting right next to me now, has got about 18 circuit boards in it. And you were changing like 10 of them. The only ones that we weren't changing was the power supply, the NTSC tuner, the AV input, the audio amplifier. I think those were the only ones that we were not changing. There was 4 boards, basically. And this was when plasma TVs were $12,000. That's what it cost to buy a plasma. $12,000 in like 2001. The repair kit that they were selling that came with the panel and all the boards associated with driving the panel was like $8,000 to spend a day to disassemble the set right down to the chassis, to take the panel out and then put it all back together. And it was going to be like 5 hours of labor. And we're like, okay, the kit costs $8,000. We're going to be charging $500 minimum to do all this work for 5 hours. So we're at $8,500. Of course, there's going to be markup on the board. So now we're at $9,000 for all the parts. And the wholesale cost on a new TV was $9 grand, and it retailed for 12. So we're all looking at each other thinking, we're out of work. We are out of work. I think a lot of us at that actual training course for plasma TV, I think a lot of us, including myself, we made up our mind right then and there on that day that we were going to leave the business. And I think that was 2000. It might have been 2002. No, was it 2000? 2001. I think it was 2001, because I did another course. It might have been 2002. Thinking back, so long ago, right? But it was one of the 2 years. But anyway, Sony quickly dumped the plasma sets because they weren't making them anyway. They were having them built for them. I think it was NEC that was making them for Sony. But anyway, every one of us at that course, we looked at each other, and even the guys from Sony, because their own guys were there. Their TV guys were having this course. They brought a trainer out from back east, right, to give us all the same course at the same time. But even their own guys were looking at it like, geez, we're not going to be fixing these things. These are going to be throwaway items. And, well, I guess they knew something that we didn't know at the time. But that's the way the market was headed. Everything was headed to become a throwaway item. And that's the way everything went. The LCD projection sets that used the light bulb, the engines were failing on them. When I say engine, I mean the LCD panels. The 3 panels were all sold as a block. That was a $1,700 part on a TV that was $5 grand when it was new, or $4,500. And the part to fix it, when they had all the little blue sparkles on the screen, the part cost $1,700. And I never ever changed one. The guy I worked for wouldn't let me change it. When we had them start to fail, he just said, okay, we're not doing this, because Sony didn't pay very much under warranty to do them, right? They only paid us, I think it was $95. That's all they paid us for TVs, $85 or $95 for TVs. And when they started failing, the owner of the shop, he didn't want to do it. He was getting fed up with the quality of the products that were coming out at the time and breaking down as quickly as they were breaking down. So he didn't want to have people yelling at him, especially when they were out of warranty. So he was just sending them off and letting the manufacturers deal with it, letting the manufacturers deal with the fallout, and customers yelling and screaming about things that shouldn't have broken. But that's the way it is. These cameras go together pretty easy, as you can see. I didn't check the camera section, but watch the camera section not work. That wasn't the complaint, right? The complaint on this was that the tape didn't work, and it didn't. But we'll check the camera out before getting much further on here. Yeah, it's got a picture, so that camera section works. We'll just remove the tape. I'm going to do a recording on here as well, make sure everything is good. Okay, so I've got a tape loaded. Let me mute that speaker so we don't have to hear it howling away. And I got a tape loaded on here. Hit record. We'll see the tape starts to move along at a pretty good clip because it's digital 8. so it runs at twice the speed of a regular 8mm tape. That's why in digital 8 mode you only get 60 minutes as opposed to 120 on a 120-minute tape. They all said video high 8 120, digital 8 60. You can see it right there. Anyway, I'm just making a quick recording on here. We're going to play this back and make sure that it plays. I'll show it to you on the big TV here in a moment. Now I know that there's some stuff recorded in a high 8 on this tape before, so let's let the camera switch over. This is playing back what was on the tape prior from a high 8 camera, and it should switch over to digital 8 momentarily. You'll see the picture quality improve, obviously, because digital 8 it does give a better picture than high 8. So momentarily here it is going to switch. Somewhere in here it's going to switch. Okay, there. Okay, now it should switch up to digital 8. There we go. It's now going to detect that it's digital 8. It's switching over to digital 8. And this is what I just recorded. I'm going to pretty good clip because it's digital 8. So it runs at twice the speed of a regular 8mm tape. That's why in digital 8 mode you only get 60 minutes as opposed to 120 on a 120-minute tape. They all said video high 8 120, digital 8 60. You can see it right there. Anyway, I'm just making a quick recording on here. We're going to play this back and make sure that it plays. I'll show it to you on the big TV here in a moment. All right, done. Throw some light back on here so you guys can see what I'm doing. So this one's fixed. I did the edge connectors on it, which is a normal service on these, and of course and that's likely why it was chewing up its tapes or not ejecting properly, because more than likely the capstan motor, the connector was bad, and the capstan motor was not running, and therefore it wasn't winding up the tapes. But anyway, that's another one. That's the third one. These 3 cameras all came in from the same guy. The last 2 I fixed. So he brought me 3. That's all 3. I got 2 fully functional cameras and 1 that's going to work fine just as a playback machine. But the guy, the fellow that brought them to me, he's going to he's involved in production work, and I guess he's going to have 1 or more of them used in a prop. I don't know that I can say what the name of the show is because I don't know. But even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. But apparently, yeah, one or more of his cameras, they are looking to use it as a prop in a TV show. So one of these cameras will be showing up on your small screen at some point in the not too distant future. So, saying that, we're all done here. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.